Hey guys, how are you? David here from TechSocial.com and ddfranco.com. It is March 2nd, 2011. The iPad 2 has finally landed a year later. Actually, more than a year later because the iPad 1, if you want to call it that, was introduced in January of 2010. So here it is, my first iPad. I love it, sexy thing. Unfortunately, I'll be selling it. I'll be talking about that at the end of the video. But anyway, let me start out by saying that the keynote overall was awesome. I was more pleased than I thought I would be. First of all, let me start by saying, that I just said that twice, that Steve Jobs made an appearance. Awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I had goosebumps on my arms and everything because I was just so happy for Steve, and I was reading on Engadget.com that he had a standing ovation and people were just cheering and clapping, and because, you know, Steve Jobs in his medical leave had the whole tech industry not up in arms, but we were just kind of nervous, including myself, because I did make a video about that a week or two ago. So, awesome of Steve to be on stage, and he looked the same, which is a good sign, I think. So anyway, Steve Jobs is back on stage, which is awesome, and he was here to do the keynote very successfully, I gotta say. Now, I have not seen the keynote yet. I will be watching it on my Apple TV tonight via iTunes. Love it. If you're curious, just go to apple.com and they'll have a link up in a few hours. Anyway, here we are with my iPad. I do indeed have pages here with my notes. There we go with my notes. I scroll down. And so let's get started. First of all, they talked about the usual facts that they always start out with. They talked about the iBook store, which in my opinion needs a lot of work. But they did say that there are over 2,500 publishers in the iBook store right now, which is pretty amazing. This doesn't technically apply to those big name publishers, but this means a lot of indie publishers. And yes, there are a couple big names out there, which is cool. But still, the fact that they have that many publishers on board already, that's a good sign, I think. And they have sold they could be free, some of them, but Apple said that there had been over 100 million iBooks downloaded, which is pretty cool. Next up is the iPhone, just one simple fact. They have sold their 100 millionth iPhone. That's insane, guys. There are 100 million of these beautiful things out there. This is an iPhone 3GS, in case you're wondering. And yes, I will be getting the iPhone 5, which they did not talk about today, but I didn't really expect them to. I expect a separate keynote in a few weeks or so regarding that. So now let's talk about the iPad. Well, the first iPad, I should say, this one. The iPad, since going on sale of, I think, April 3rd last year? I believe that's the date. They have sold 15 million iPads in just 9 months. Now, I'm not going to say I told you so, but to all the haters out there who are calling me horrible names, calling me a dumbass, and, oh, David, you're such an Apple fanboy, you agree with everything Apple does. Let me just say right now, I was right. That may sound cocky of me, but I don't get why people were jumping on me so easily this time last year when I said that the iPad was going to be a huge success. 9 months later, guys, 15 million iPads were sold. That's pretty insane. And then, of course, Jobs went on to say that 65,000 apps are now available, iPad-specific apps, which is awesome. And then they kind of did a smack in the face at Samsung, which I'm not really a fan of that whole smack talk kind of thing, company to company. And also, I own a Samsung TV, so. And plus, I have yet to use the Galaxy Tab, but it is what it is. And overall, Jobs ended the iPad 1 portion of the keynote by saying the iPad is more successful than people predicted. So let's talk about the iPad 2, because this thing is suddenly obsolete. I'm sorry, baby, but I'm putting you on eBay. Yes, I'm talking to it. Anyway, let's talk about the iPad 2. First of all new design, which is awesome. It has an A5 processor, dual-core, 1 gigahertz, which is awesome. And the CPU, A5, to say it again, is 2 times faster, which is great. The iPad 1 is already fast as it is, but I have seen slowdown here and there on certain apps and games. So the fact that they have a 2 times faster processor inside now is awesome. 9 times faster graphics. Now, they didn't really say what kind of graphics GPU's in here, chip and, the chips in it or whatever. But 9 times faster, guys. I understand like 2 or 3 times faster, but 9 times faster? That's awesome. So yes, games are going to get even better looking on here. Next up is the iPad 2 is 33%, 33% thinner. Awesome. It's even thinner than the iPhone 4. Now I have the iPhone 3GS. So let's do a size comparison of the iPhone 3GS versus the iPad. First generation. As you can see, yes, this iPad is already thinner than the 3GS. It seems that way. So the fact that the iPad 2 is thinner than the iPhone 4 and then that the iPhone 4 is already thinner than the 3GS, it's pretty damn thin. It has a built-in gyroscope, of course. That's something we should have expected because the iPhone 4 and iPod Touch have that now. Front and rear-facing cameras. The front camera is VGA, so unfortunately it's nothing amazing. I was hoping for something more high-res, but there's only so much you can do with the front-facing camera. But this honestly kind of surprised me. I didn't really expect this. The back-facing camera is 720p. So it's most likely the same camera on the iPhone 4 and iPod Touch in terms of video capturing, which is awesome. Now, let me do a mini rant here. I see everyone saying, David, why the hell would I want to hold up an iPad and do a video like this and take pictures and stuff? I gotta say, I understand where you're coming from because it's kind of odd to hold up an object this big. But guys, if you think about it, this isn't that big. I mean, if I were to take a picture of my TV, this isn't that big, guys. And if you're going to put a front-facing camera on, then why wouldn't you put a rear-facing camera on? That's just my opinion. And it's not like the rear-facing camera defeats the purpose of the iPad or it lowers, the overall usability of the iPad. It's just an extra feature. This is kind of the analogy I was thinking about yesterday. You don't see me complaining that that my Mac Pro has 2 USB ports on the front instead of 1. So that's like saying, why the hell would I need a second USB port? It's there. You're eventually going to use it. And if you're not, who cares? It doesn't change anything. Okay, the iPad 2 is available in 2 colors, black and white. Now, I gotta say, I'm kind of shocked at this because the white iPhone 4 still is not available. It just hasn't happened yet. But the white iPad 2 will be available on day 1, which I'll be talking about in a minute, the release date. I gotta say, I really like the black bezel. The iPad 2 white, well, obviously have a white bezel. Now, I'm a big fan of white products. I have a white 3GS. But I gotta say, something of this size, I would really like a black bezel. It's just better for viewing movies, and it's less distracting than white in terms of doing work on here or web browsing. Now, obviously, a lot of you are not going to agree with me, and that's fine because color is obviously a very personal choice. But for the iPad, I will take black any day because it's a little too much white in my opinion. Next up is the same 10-hour battery life. I was a little disappointed to see that they did not increase the battery life. But then again, the fact that this thing now, well, not this one, the fact that the iPad 2 now has a dual-core processor, 9 times faster graphics, and overall a much-needed speed boost in performance and everything basically, except for the screen resolution, which I'll talk about at the end. And the fact that the battery life is the same, that's pretty damn impressive if you think about it. So it's better to keep the battery life the same rather than take an hour or two. And the prices and storage are going to be exactly the same. It's going to start out at $499 at 16 gigabyte and go all the way up to 64 gigabyte Wi-Fi or 3G. Same exact prices. Just go to apple.com/iPad to see all the prices there. Me personally, I'm going with the 32 gigabyte 3G because I have learned my lesson with this thing. My iPad is next to useless when I leave the house and I do not have access to Wi-Fi. You have no idea how often I've caught myself going on Twitter on here or checking my email or going in Safari and realizing that I'm not on 3G or Wi-Fi. So this is why I never really took my iPad out of the house that often because I really can't do much with it. But the fact that I'm finally gonna have 3G, that's a pretty big deal. Yeah, it's a price increase, but like I've always said, in life you get what you pay for. You can't be too cheap. So anyway, shipping March 11th. I'm gonna say insane a lot, but that's insanely close, guys. I believe that's next Friday. Let me see. March 11th is, yes, next Friday. So my iPad 1 will be on eBay by tonight. I'll put a link below the video if you guys are interested in purchasing it yourself. I'm looking to sell this for around $550 or $600 if I can, and maybe with a free case or two. This is the 32 gigabyte Wi-Fi for those interested. So that is the iPad 2 shipping March 11th. I was honestly expecting a late March or early April release like last year. But hey, the earlier the better. So if I can have an iPad 2 in my hands as early as next weekend, if they do overnight shipping into Saturday, that would be amazing. But I'll most likely have it like the following Monday or Tuesday. So now let's talk about iPad 2 accessories. It has an HDMI video out via an optional accessory, which costs $30 I believe, which I will be buying as well. You know Apple, they don't really put any extra ports in here that they don't need, which I don't blame them because I'm a really big fan of Apple's clean design. But the fact that I can now... Oh, okay, here we go. This is insane. This is a big, big deal for a lot of people. You can finally do HDMI video out, like I just said, but it's not just videos, guys. You can now mirror your display. So if I go to my home screen here, I can now have this on my TV. That's insane, guys. I can now play games on my TV. I can play Angry Birds on my TV. I can do web browsing on my TV. If I say on my TV one more time, I'm going to headbutt my iPad. That's a big, big deal. It supports up to 1080p output, which is awesome. It supports rotation, so if I rotate, it'll obviously go native widescreen, hopefully. I'm assuming, since it's 1080p. There's no setup required. It just works. It's Apple. What do you expect? And this is really cool. While it's outputting to your TV or monitor, you can charge it. It charges while outputting, so that's pretty damn sweet. I cannot stress how awesome that is. So if you're one that wants to get people's attention with like a keynote or presentation or anything for that matter, or even just to show your friends and family, this can now output to your TV natively. Your app does not even need to support it. It just works. That is a huge deal, and that is not something I expected to see today. So kudos to Apple for finally coming through with that.